On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. One-of-a-kind opinions, big-name guests, the teams you care about every day. It's the Ron Johnson Show, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Ron Johnson Show, and I'm your host, Ron Johnson. In today's episode of the Ron Johnson Show, before I bring my producer in, here's what we're going to talk about. Harrison Smith. Where is he at in his career? Is this the end? Is this a swan song? Does he have 2 more years? Or is he going to recreate himself within this 3-4 defense like Charles Woodson did when he became a Packer? I mean, a lot of people assume Charles Woodson was done. Charles Woodson had a lot left in the tank. Is Harrison Smith there? We'll talk about that and where he ranks. We're going to talk about the Daily 3, some big news. I mean, Brittany Griner, we heard about her pleading guilty in Russia. There's another Minnesota athlete that's now dealing with the same issues in Russia, and Russia does not play. We'll talk about that in the Daily 3. And then, of course, we're going to rank the NFL secondaries. I mean, if Harrison Smith, it falls where he falls, where do the Vikings secondary as a whole fall? I mean, they did add 2 new pieces. But as I bring my producer, Sam Ekstrom, in, Sam, I'm going to let you give me the question of the day. You can kind of tell me where that top 10, whatever-ish safeties are, if you want to name some names, and then I can kind of give you my take after that. But before we do that, let's get a word from our sponsors.
Sounds good, Ron. We kick off the week talking about the Sports Card Investor app. You know, sports cards were all the rage when I was a kid, and I think they are absolutely coming back because everyone wants to get nostalgic about their favorite players. You can go back and get those sports cards from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and you can get sports cards of the up and rising stars from today with the completely free Sports Card Investor app with over 630,000 cards from every sport. Hundreds more added each week. Check the latest values of your favorite cards with 7-day or 30-day charts. Find the best prices and buy directly through the app with our eBay deals feature. If you're interested in sports cards, this is the app for you. Download the Sports Card Investor app today. Available for free in the Google Play and Apple App Stores, or go to sportscardinvestor.com/locked-on.
Well, Sam, I talked about it. Harrison Smith, where does he fall on this list of rankings? Give me the question and give me where he falls.
All right, ESPN.com. They've been in a habit of ranking things lately. It's July. It's the offseason. We talked about where Danielle Hunter ranked last week. They had him as an honorable mention. So does Harrison Smith get snubbed from the list as well? No, he does not. Harrison Smith is ranked. Do you want to guess, Ron? Do you think he's in the top 5?
I mean, I would put him in the top 5, but give me just go in order. One, through,
all right,
and I'll see.
1, Justin Simmons, Denver Broncos. 2, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 3, Kevin Byard, Tennessee Titans. Number 4, Derwin James Jr., LA Chargers. Number 5, Budda Baker, Arizona Cardinals. Jesse Bates, the third, is number 6, which leads to Harrison Smith at number 7. The rankings round out 8, Marcus Williams. 9, Antoine Winfield Jr., little Gophers love. Okay. And Jamal Adams sneaks in at number 10.
Okay. So from that list there, so I see they kind of mix the old with the young. If they're really, really young, they kind of threw them in the back, but saying they have a chance. If they're older, like a Jamal Adams, they just put them at 10. I personally, I think Minkah Fitzpatrick is the best safety in the NFL right now. I would have put him at 1. I'd have to read the article a little bit more and dig into it. I don't really do a lot of ESPN Plus stuff. But I'd have to dig into the stats. Like I see the article and I understand where they're going with this, but I want to dig into the stats a little bit more. And here's where I land on that. As I dig into the stats, you think about Harrison Smith. This is a what have you done for me lately league. If Harrison Smith had an Anthony Harris 6 interception type of season last year, the year before, or so on and so forth, I think Harrison Smith gets a little bit more, hey, yep, he still got it. The problem is Harrison Smith's not always, if you want to call it Hawkeye, from the Avengers, sits back with the bow and arrow in the back, and he's just picking people off from deep. Harrison Smith didn't do that a lot in Mike Zimmer's defense because he was up in the everything. He was up in the box. He was blitzing like secretly. He's jumping different routes to help players out with the double team so that they can get a better matchup on the backside. That and it was kind of, and not to say it was easy to see, but I felt like a lot of teams figured it out. But I would put Minkah Fitzpatrick 1. I would say 7 is probably a good starter. It's a good place. Like, it's not a bad place. I mean, you look at that top 10 as a whole, those are all Pro Bowl type safeties. And the one thing about a safety versus any other position, corner, you can kind of get direct impact of, like, what is the receiver's yards versus them in games? What is the quarterback's QBR versus that DB? What is the quarterback's passer rating versus that specific DB? How many touchdowns directly came from him? Safeties, it's a little bit different. It's more of, okay, big splash plays, interceptions taken back for touchdowns, ball hawk type of plays where you're like, man, this looks like it's going to be a catch, and then safety comes out of nowhere, makes an interception. Harrison Smith is not that guy. He does show up in big moments, but he doesn't always do it because he's in the box a lot. And then he's always disguising and trying to get back. And so sometimes when he does it, they're just going to go opposite because they're like, man, Harrison Smith's doing something. So when I look at that group, I get it. Like, it fits. It fits the narrative. I stay with Minkah Fitzpatrick 1. I would throw Harrison Smith 5. I mean, that's where I would personally do it, just from his body of work. I would throw Antoine Winfield at 7. I think Antoine Winfield, being young, he's just getting what he's getting. Jamal Adams, to me, should be around 8. And then you flip some guys around. But hey, that's their list. I get it. When the season goes, we will see how this Pro Bowl vote goes at the end. We can follow back up later. We can go back and see how the interception ratio goes. And then the QBR rating. Like, how is their defensive backfield going? I don't know, Sam. What do you think? Where do you put Harrison Smith?
Yeah, I mean, I think if people are looking at just the raw interception total and assuming that because he had just 1 last year that he's gotten worse, I don't think that's a good indicator. I mean, interceptions are so random with safeties. You look at Anthony Harris, who you mentioned, 3 years ago, he's leading the league, and then I think he got shut out or had 1 the next year. He just didn't get as many opportunities. It's more about what you're doing on a play-by-play basis, and oftentimes the best safeties aren't getting challenged because they're always in the right spot. And if you look at Harrison Smith play to play, the stuff he does before the snap doesn't show up in a box score. Remember watching the Steelers game, Ron? How he was just absolutely playing mind games with Ben Roethlisberger. He was up at the line, and then he was sprinting back 30 yards deep, and he was making the adjustments. He was making all the calls. The guy has that next-level football instinct, and that's what a lot of the quotes in this article talk about. They interviewed front office members and coaches and scouts, and they're all saying that he still has all the things that make him special. His brains, instincts, and experience will always get him close to the action. And that's the value of Harrison Smith, which really you can't calculate.
Correct.
So I don't think he's dropped off as much as some outsiders might assume, having watched him every single game. I think he's still really good. I mean, he's being paid handsomely. They extended him to a massive deal, and that's going to be tough to sustain for the next 2-3 years. But I think he's worth every penny so far at age 33.
Yeah, and I think so too. And with him and Lewis Cine now, I think you add a different beast. Lewis Cine is more of a hitter. So I think in his later years of his career now, year 9 or 10, he's going to be able to play the Anthony Harris role. He's going to be able to stay on the back end a little bit more because Lewis Cine is going to be your banger. He's going to be your head knocker. He's going to be in the box. He's going to be the guy, banging with tight ends, trying to take on running backs in the hole. Like, I think Lewis Cine's going to become the hitman. He's going to be the hitman in training. And Harry, the hitman, can sit back like a boss and say, yeah, you go take care of that light work. I'll sit back here and I'm going to get some interceptions. I'm going to play safety on the back end. Because in the 3-4, you have a little bit more. Because if you can get your mic to drop back to the middle and you're going to play like a Tampa 2, you're going to get a little bit more of a Tampa look with an umbrella. And that's where Cam Bynum comes in. I would love to see Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum as those 2 back safeties. Lewis Cine takes on more like a linebacker role sometimes, and he's dropping back in the middle. I mean, that can be a dangerous, dirty group when you put 3 safeties on the field. And Cam Bynum can come down and cover because he played corner in college. There's a lot. Darrell Reed brought it up with Ed Donatel's defense that he loves to move. He loves to do stuff and come up with unique looks. I'm not throwing that off the table. I think a 3 safety look could be a different look because you have a corner as a safety in Cam Bynum. And although he hasn't played corner for 2 years now, or going on 2 years now, you don't lose that coverage skills that quick. I mean, he was just in college a year ago. So he still knows how to play corner. I'm pretty sure he's in practice covering tight ends and running backs as well when safeties 1v1 versus safeties, running backs, tight ends. So, I mean, down until those coaches are looking like, hey, this kid can still cover. Like, why waste him at just safety or special teams when we can come up with a unique package to get him on the field, Asamoah on the field who can cover running backs as well, and have some unique looks in this 3-4 defense. But Harrison Smith, I think he's going to benefit from the change. The guys getting after the quarterback a little bit more in that 3-4 because now you always have unique rushing looks. It's not just your 4 down. It's going to be 2 to 3 plus somebody else. And that somebody else could be anybody in the 3-4, which makes it so hard. And that's why the Steelers have always kind of been there. The Steelers have never switched from a 3-4, they always run a 3-4 since back with the Greg Lloyd days. I mean, it's been the Steelers 3-4 for a long time. That's where Tony Dungy learned it. The whole Tampa 2, he went there and then he created it and made it his own. So it should be a fun season to see this defense take the field. But Harrison Smith, I think he's right where he's going to be, but I think he might finish as a top 5, top 4 safety this year because of the changes. Up next on the Ron Johnson Show, we're going to talk about these safeties in the secondary specifically in the entire NFL. Sam's going to give me the list. I'm going to give you my thoughts. We'll be back after this. Up next on the Ron Johnson Show, it's man-to-man with me and Sam Ekstrom. He's going to give me a topic or something that happened or somebody got ranked again, and we're going to debate it. Sam's going to give me his thoughts. There's no Kirk Cousins, so don't worry. Sam's not going to be negative on this one. But as I bring Sam Ekstrom in, my producer, I know we have another word from our sponsors before we get to it because the Vikings secondary was ranked in tiers as well. They always want to put people in tiers. Let's see where the Vikings secondary falls in the PFF rankings. But before we do that, a word from our sponsors.
Our next partner has a product I literally have started using and love. I started taking AG1 because I just wanted better health, better energy, better immune system. Didn't like taking the pills and vitamins. And I'm really a big new fan of Athletic Greens. What is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, still tastes good, supports better sleep and recovery. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/MLB Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Now let's rank some secondaries. Ron, let me just jump right into this. We've been going through the PFF rankings for the last week. We did running backs. We did wide receivers. We did defensive line last Friday. Today we get into the secondary.
Yep.
So let me preface it with this. PFF has assumed who the 5 starters are going to be, and they've ranked them as such.
Okay.
Now, these are the 5 that they have for the Vikings, and I'm not sure I agree. Maybe long-term, but I don't know about week 1 or even for most of the season.
Well, here, I'll give you the 5 I think, and then you tell me. So
All
I got
right.
Harrison Smith. I got Lewis Seen. I got Andrew Booth Jr. I got Patrick Peterson, and then Shannon Sullivan.
Okay, so you have 4 or 5. You
Okay.
correctly have Lewis Seen. You correctly have Andrew Booth Jr. However, they do have Cameron Dantzler instead of Shannon Sullivan. My question is on this, do we know Andrew Booth is a nickel? Because that's what they have Andrew Booth as. And I thought he was an outside guy, and I figured that's what he would be trained as because you have Shannon Sullivan. That's your nickel this year. So I don't know if I love those 5, but okay, those 5, Peterson, Dantzler, Booth, Smith and Seen. Where do you think that stands in the NFL?
Well, one for Andrew Booth, I think, and this could just be them doing what their investigations. Another corner from the outside at Clemson became a nickel, which was Mackenzie Alexander. So that could just be an error of ways of saying like, oh yeah, Clemson, they put their corners, but he is a smaller corner. He is not smaller. Sorry, he is a like an Antoine Winfield senior type of body. But I think what is he? 6 feet? I can't remember.
I got his page up right here. 6 feet, 195.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so 6 feet, not a small, but not a 6'2" Patrick Peterson type. So at 6 feet, can be considered, and that's like, again, it's not a small person at 6 feet. That's a normal, average corner size. But at that size, when you look at him, he doesn't look 6 feet. And so in their mind, they're like, look, this guy gets probably, he can move well, move his hips. He can be a nickel guy. He can cover slots. He's fast. He's young. And I think maybe that's the thought process in this. You don't draft a guy and have a drafted Cameron Dancer as well and try not to get production out of both of them. I think it's Chandon Sullivan to start, and then maybe work Lewis or Booth in, leave Booth on the outside, Cameron Dancer and him trading out, because that becomes, not saying embarrassment of riches, but it does. It becomes a bunch of corners that could start, but look, we're going to work you guys in, and also get Patrick Peterson off every once in a while. Let him get a breather. At his age, you don't want him to burn out early in the season as well. Like, if there's opportunities where you can get him off the field, like if it's a running down or something like that, like, yeah, get him off. Like, bring in one of these young corners to do it, give them a quick breather. But if that's their 5, and they don't have Chandon Sullivan in, the veteran, I'm going to guess if there's 6 in tier 1 again, 6 in tier 2, and that 5-some, I still personally would put them in tier, you know what? Because you got the Steelers. I'm going to go tier 2. I think the Vikings fall in tier 2. That's just where they've been putting them. They respect Harrison Smith. They love Patrick Peterson. They think Lewis Cine is a beast. I'm going to say right at the top of tier 2.
All right. So starting with tier 1, this is what they call, where do offenses even attack? Because they're so good. They have actually 8 of these. The Vikings are not in tier 1.
Wow.
The Vikings are not in tier 1. So the Packers are, unfortunately. Number tier 2, which they call minor question marks. There are 6 teams, and the Vikings are not in that group either.
Okay.
They are in tier 3, which they define as ascending units. And within that, the Vikings are ranked 18th. Here's the description. The Vikings have quite a dichotomous mix of veteran talent with rookie top 50 picks. The biggest worry, though, is age. Once considered elite players at their respective positions, can 33-year-old Harrison Smith and 32-year-old Patrick Peterson still be relied upon? And then, hey, it's full circle, Ron. Comes back to segment 1. We agree that Harrison Smith can be relied upon. What do you think about Patrick Peterson?
Well, it's funny to hear the ages, because you would assume Patrick Peterson is older than Harrison Smith because he acts so much. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just operates, moves around older.
Yeah,
like
he's been in the league longer too. Yep.
Yeah, it feels like, and that's probably part of it, but he just feels older. It feels like he's an older guy than Harrison Smith. Like, I would have put Harrison Smith, like, if I did not know, I would have put Harrison Smith at like 30 and put Patrick Peterson at 32, 33. Like, that's what's so funny to me, is Harrison Smith being 33 and Peterson being 32. And granted, that's a long time in the NFL. Like, the average year is 3.5 years, is what 3.4, I think, is what they say. And so when you think about that, and these guys are hitting on year 10, 11, at their age, a lot of people just say 34, 35. It's kind of like you're just getting by, getting checks now. Like, are you really performing? Are you really helping out? And that's what we're going to see this year. How much does Patrick Peterson is not, we know that he's not the shutdown guy he used to be when he was a Pro Bowler, in year 1, 2, and 3. But he's still an athlete. He still can run. We saw that. How can Ed Donatell help him out? Is it a lot more zone coverage now? When you have a lot of young bodies, do you bring those guys in to run man press every once in a while and give Pat, like I said, give him a breather, get him off the field? So 18 seems low to me, but maybe that's just because, like, I'm older. So I'm looking at the Harrison Smiths and the Patrick Petersons and saying how good I know they were. And maybe that is me being a little older, being a little bit more nostalgic to what they've been for the NFL. Looking at Lewis Cine again, playing in the national championship at Georgia, watching some of his highlights, seeing Andrew Booth Jr. play man coverage at Clemson, watching what he did on film. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit bullish on him, but that's where they put him at 18th. I get it.
You got to like that they have, I think, 3 safeties that are exciting. You've got Bynum and Cine and Smith, and then you've got an extra corner or 2 that are pretty exciting. With whether Andrew Booth is on the bench or starting, you still have corners that are veterans that you can trust. So there's better depth this year. If they were ranking the units as a whole with the depth included and not just picking 5, I feel like the ranking would have been higher, Ron.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, again, we don't know what Shannon Sullivan really is. It almost feels like when players commit to like a big school, and then they all of a sudden turn around and commit to, another school. Like, I mean, we've seen it in Minnesota. Seth Green committed to Oregon. He was a 4-star. He commits to, he decommits and then commits to Minnesota. They knock him down to a 3-star. So I feel like a lot of times certain teams, like depending on the player and the situation, I feel like there was a lot of respect for Mike Zimmer's defensive backs. Like, I think Mike Zimmer, if he still was the defensive backs coach or coordinator even for the Vikings, they might raise him up a little bit higher too. Like, Mike Zimmer got a lot of respect from the NFL just because of how Deion Sanders talked about him and how, so many of his DBs became top guys. When you look at Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes going to get money, Anthony Harris, he put a lot, Sandejo, a lot of guys still got to go on and play and make money after, they were coached up by Mike Zimmer. And so when you think about that, and then Patrick Peterson, that was one of the reasons why he said he came originally. Now he's like, no, I just like the team. So, I think there's a little bit there too. This 3-4 defense, nobody knows, but again, age, I get it. When you go with age, you always say that. We said the same thing about Tom Brady and he won the Super Bowl. So it is what it is. They're going to rank it how they rank it. That's why we talk about it. But up next on the Ron Johnson Show, we have the Daily 3. We got a serious one in this one. Anytime you're talking about Russia, it gets a little bit serious. That's up next. Stay tuned. Up next on the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast Network, we got the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Sam's going to throw the question at me. I'm going to answer it. Sam, take it away.
Let's start with an ambiguous, concerning, scary situation that Kirill Kaprizov and the Minnesota Wild find themselves in. So here's what we know, and we don't know everything, but this is what's been reported. Kirill Kaprizov is, I don't know if wanted is the right word, but being held in his country's borders because allegedly he at one point had a fraudulent military ID. Now, whether that's true or not, we don't know. We don't know what the motivations are to keep Kaprizov in Russia. But he has tried to leave the country twice, according to Michael Russo, who's been talking to the Minnesota Wild people, and he has not been allowed to leave. We know that Brittany Griner was held in Russia, and she pleaded guilty to possession of marijuana. That's been a terrible situation to watch unfold. And now Kaprizov is apparently stuck in Russia. The Minnesota Wild have not wanted to say too much about this, but they're saying they're not pressing the panic button yet. Are you pressing the panic button, Ron?
I wouldn't press the panic button, but I would be nervous. And this is the reason why. One, they probably are a little bit nervous, but also they have other players. Kirill Kaprizov is definitely one of their best, or the best, or one of the best. They just signed Marc-Andre Fleury. The Flower is back for 2 more years. But when you think about this is the reason why. One, you can't put too much in the media because Russia can look at Twitter and the internet just like everybody else. If we tip our hat to how important he is, I think Russia uses that, to be honest. I mean, this is political chess, what they're doing right now. Like, the rumor is they have some Russian detainees in the U.S. that they've been trying to get released for years, that they've been trying to get back in their jails. And whether it's they don't want those guys to flip on Russia and give up secrets, tell where the bodies are buried, tell where the nuclear weapons are being held. I don't know what, but Russia's really been trying to get these guys. They've tried this before, from what I hear. And the Brittany Griner thing, I think they said the pleading guilty was just to get the process started. So now we have one of your guilty, you have one of ours. Let's trade. Well, this is the problem. She was wanted for like marijuana, hash oil. Mm-hmm. So the oil, which is probably in the U.S. a misdemeanor, slap on the wrist, maybe some community service, pay a fine. In Russia, people are saying no matter what you do, they can give you 10 years if they want, because it's just how it is when you're in a dictatorship. When you look at the U.S. criminals of Russia, these guys are terrorists or they're money launderers or they, have done some bad stuff. Like we don't just arrest Russians for like speeding tickets. So the people we have detained are like, whether it's a war criminal, whether it's somebody that they deemed a threat to the U.S. national security. These are like and they're playing with the U.S. citizens in order to get their people back that have done bad things, and they're scared, that they're going to tell. And that's what's sad about this. Like Kirill Kaprizov is probably a little bit scared because something like a fake ID, that's literally not a crime. Like if I have a fake ID, again, I'm just going to be slapped on the wrist. I'm going to be made fun of, and I might do, 30 days of community service or something. Like if that, because I know it's a military ID. So it's a little bit different, but I'm pretty sure the military in the U.S., if you had a fake U.S. military ID to try to get into a bar, you're not getting arrested. It's going to get taken. It might get reported to the military. Like, hey, there's a guy here with fake military IDs and dog tags. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to see a nice little government letter. Hey, please stop impersonating a government official. Now, if you try to get something serious out of it, who knows what? Yeah, maybe you might get a little bit of trouble, but you're not going to be arrested and detained in the country. So that's what's a little bit sad about this. And who knows? They might have made it up. It might be a sticker of Russia on his passport, and they're just trying to say it was a government, a fake military ID. But it's a serious matter. I wouldn't panic, but I'd be a little bit worried.
I've got no clue what the Russian requirement is to serve in their military, because I think they're implying that Kaprizov dodged his military service. But
okay.
This is, and I don't know for sure, but this is what's scary. So the name Ivan Fedetov, he was arrested and sent to a remote military base in Russia July 5th for the exact same thing. And that's an NHL goalie prospect for the Philadelphia Flyers. So clearly, this is not just a Kaprizov issue. Like NHL players all around that country might be being used as a bargaining chip. And Kaprizov is as prominent, along with, Ovechkin, a couple others. He's probably in the 5 most recognizable Russian NHL stars right now.
Right.
So if Fedetov, who's like a prospect, is getting held up for this reason, I can only imagine that Kaprizov is very much on their radar, which is super scary.
Wow, that's sad. That's sad because if I'm Kaprizov, I probably don't go home right now, especially with everything going on. Like Brittany Griner, all the stuff. I know if he did dodge military time, you've done it. And again, he's young, so people just think they're invincible sometimes. I'm flying my family to the U.S. I'm rich now. Like I'm flying them to the U.S. I'm getting the owners to get a jet. Let's get my family out of Russia. They can come hang out with me in the summer, and we can get them back. That's a tough one. What's next?
Yeah. Yep, really tough. A lighter topic. Twins have 2 All-Stars. Byron Buxton had a very up and down first half of the season, but the bottom line is, I think 23 home runs, just an extra base hit machine, unbelievable defensively. Only hit like 215, but he had a lot of power. And then Luis Arraez, who hit 348 and leads the league in batting average. Those are the 2 All-Stars. Ron, which one did you enjoy watching more in the first half of the season?
I'd say Buxton. Like Buxton is just because of what he did. Arraez, like it was cool to see the hitting and the consistent hitting. He was able to do things that a lot of people did not think he could do. I think he was one of the top 3 hitters when we talked about him last time. He started tweeting pictures of him sleeping in the bed with his bat. I think Dustin Morse tweeted it out, saying this is what he does. He sleeps with his bat, like to get, I don't know. I mean, it was a weird tweet, but whatever. I definitely Buxton, because of the outfield stuff, some of the plays he makes, you're like, man, some of the bombs he hits, the back-to-back bombs. It became fun to watch. I thought they might have had maybe one more. But Carlos Correa maybe wasn't as consistent, but I thought he would have been an All-Star as well. But yeah, no, it's cool to see 2 All-Stars as they head into the All-Star break, having the lead like that. The biggest thing is don't go planning weddings in the bye week. The All-Star break. Don't plan weddings. Don't try to go mountain, climbing and skiing. Like my hope is that the Twins players all sit out on a boat somewhere in Lake Minnetonka, rest up, get in the weight room, throw, don't do anything crazy, don't get hurt. Same with Buxton. Don't do anything in this All-Star game to get hurt. Like if there's a fly ball going to the wall, let it go. Like who cares? Like don't do something stupid like trying to steal a base or get an extra base in an All-Star game and then you tear something up, or you not tear it up, but you know how he is. He gets dinged up. But yeah, no, I definitely enjoy watching Buxton earlier in the season.
Twins play the Brewers and White Sox this week before the All-Star break. All-Star game is next Tuesday. Last one for you. Speaking of All-Star games, the WNBA All-Star game, Ron, was yesterday. The Lynx Sylvia Fowles had a dunk in the game in her final All-Star game. It's her final season after an unreal career, 8 years in Minnesota. Ron, what is the legacy for Fowles as a Minnesota sports icon as she goes into her final few games?
It's tough to see the last season be this bad. But it happens. You know, some people say, I always looked at I forgot the movie, but it was a movie they talked about Lena Horne, and Lena Horne always knew when to leave. You know, she knew when her voice wasn't working and wasn't going to work out. Not to say Sylvia Fowles held on too long. She's fine. It's just that team, you know, like she could have probably found a better time to retire. You know, but it is what it is. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, you know, like Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird, you know, I know everybody's hoping for them to have a same type of, you know, final season. Cause I think this is Sue Bird's as well. You know, Michael Jordan, you know, he came back and ended up winning more, you know, but then that whole Wizards thing was just super weird. You know, there's so many guys you can look at and be like, man, like their final season, just like Peyton Manning, that's probably one of the best ways to walk out a champion. Jerome Bettis, he walked off a champion with the Steelers. Everybody doesn't get to make that decision, though. Everybody can't walk away. I think Ray Lewis is the same thing. Like, he came back that one last ride, and then they end up winning the Super Bowl. So some guys do it and get it done the right way and get to walk off a champion. And some people, their final season is like, man, it's brutal. But in the All-Star game to get a dunk, you know, I think that was cool. You know, hopefully I saw a high school girl who did it, who's going to Stanford. So more and more women now are starting to realize they can do it. And not to say it wasn't a thing. I think women before just never thought about dunking. You know, some of the taller women, it was like you weren't telling them to go dunk a ball, you know, but athletes are getting better, faster, stronger, taller. When I look at Sylvia Fowles, her legacy for me will be the Lindsay Whalen days. Like, those were the days that I want to remember her. Like, when Lindsay Whalen was playing with her, she was one of the best players I've seen, you know, and that was a great group. Simone, what was this? Augustus, Maya Moore, like those, that's the Sylvia Fowles legacy. Because I know Lindsay Whalen loves posting like the meme of her and Sylvia Fowles, and you know, she loves talking to her, talking about her. Like, that's what I think her legacy is going to be, kind of like a Lindsay Whalen. We'll stick with that era of it and not this season.
Yeah, she extended the Lynx dynasty because the Lynx had the 2 titles in 11 and 13, and then Fowles came along in 15, and they won 2 more with her. So they turned it into, you know, kind of a mini dynasty to a mega dynasty. And I think Fowles was, you know, arguably the, you know, 1A and 1B with Maya Moore for those title teams.
Yeah. And that's what I'll say. But that'll do it for the Ron Johnson Show. I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. Thank you for joining us on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast Network. We are the Ron Johnson Show. We enjoy all of the interactions on Twitter. Thank you guys for continuing to watch, download, subscribe, and please share, like, and comment as well wherever you get your podcast. But you can also watch us on YouTube. Thank you. Have a great day.